Your genetics do not matter. You're probably thinking already, all right, I'm going to the next YouTube video. This is nonsense. Now, of course they matter. But what I mean by that is we can't change our genetics. So this hyper obsession with the natural limit and finding out before I get there what my top end limit is, it's like if you could find out when you would die, would you want to know? Or would you want to not know? Like if you could find out your natural limit, would you want to know or would you not want to know? Now I think it's an irrelevant, thought process thing to think about because I'm not a believer in the natural limit. I'm definitely a believer in the concept that our progress will slow down, of course, as you push the limit more and more. But just over the past year and a half, after I turned 30, which by most people's standards, that's past the point in time when you should be making peak growth. Typically it's 18 to 28 or somewhere in there, probably based on hormones and growth and whatnot. So after I turned 30, I was able to make some of the best gains in my life, best strength gains in my life, staying reasonably lean, pushing to a body weight I'd never been to before. All things that a lot of people probably would have said, you're not gonna do that in your 30s. And I believe that's because, well, first of all, I started eating food, which helps. I was eating food before, but I was not focusing on it enough. But other than that, I think it was because I didn't self-limit myself before I even, took a chance at it, right? Like if I told myself there's no shot I can get over 200 or 205 or whatever, then yes, of course I'm not going to get there. If I put up that wall, I'm not going to be able to break past it. So when I hear people talking about the natural limit or the genetic limit, people comment semi-frequently like, oh, you must be close to your natural limit, your genetic limit. Like I never think about that. I'm super grateful for my genetics, super grateful for my parents. They were the best possible parents anyone could want. And, my genetic profile or whatever it is, I don't even know what you would term it. It is what it is. And you just work with what you have. Everyone has a different starting point and everyone progresses at different speeds. But the one thing in common is that we can all make progress. And whether your progress is at the same rate as someone else or slower than someone else, none of that matters. It's all about whether or not you're making incremental gains over time. If you're making, if I'm making incremental gains, say it's me pushing from a 350 bench to a 355 bench, so what if that takes me months? I'm fine with that. It's worth the time to me. Alex Lee and I just put out a great video talking about this exact, similar, natural limit concepts and whatnot. Talking about how if it took him, a year to add 5 pounds to his bench press, if that was what he wanted to do, if that's how long it took, then, he would do it. He would get there. I think for him, his bench press will probably progress faster if he just continues, in the route he's going. But he doesn't have that limiting belief. A lot of people would probably have said, 365 is the limit for him as a natural. He's not gonna be able to get past that. But he didn't have that mindset. He just said, you know what? I'm gonna find a way. I'm going for it. I'm gonna get it done. Not to be overly positive, but I think the mindset, where's Bugenhagen, right? It's a mindset. The mindset is huge because you can absolutely convince yourself out of doing something. I've had those days where I'm going for something and I just convince myself out of it before I even get there. So if you convince yourself out of hitting new territory and you talk yourself into this belief that there's a natural limit and my genetics are going to hold me back and whatever, then of course you're going to be held back. Of course you're going to have a limit. You've already decided for yourself. You miss 100% of the shots you don't go for, right? So just keep your mind open. You can do far more than you think you can do. That's the one thing that I've found with this process. There were a lot of things that I did not think were possible really for myself, or I just, I didn't envision them as occurring, but I never told myself I couldn't do them, right? So like getting to 17-inch arms when I was bulking for the past year, I never thought, oh, I can't get there. I never put up that barrier in my mind. I just worked at it. I put in the time, I did the repetitions. I ate the food. I progressed the lifts. I tracked things. I slept, just all the basic stuff. And eventually over time pushed past 17-inch arms. I know it sounds like an oversimplification, but in reality, that's exactly what occurred. So I just want to make this video and just put a message of positivity out there, because so frequently I hear that from people about the natural limit, what can potentially be attained. And yes, it's interesting to think about, I guess. Looking at who has more genetic potential, who has less genetic potential, and I don't know, just that general sort of thing. Looking at who can build muscle faster. But when it comes to individuals progressing, I think just do your best. And if you're actually sleeping and actually eating and actually training hard, then you will progress. Unless your program is absolutely terrible, in which case you should look at trying a different program, because obviously programming does matter. But yeah, I think we're all capable of far more than we think we are. And the mind is the greatest asset we have, but it can also be an adversary when we talk ourselves out of doing things before we've even attempted them. So set yourself some big goals, set some incremental goals to get to those big goals. Track as much as you can, because when you track, you know where you're at. And also when you track, I find that when I'm tracking, I rarely think about what I can do, what I can't do, because I look back at what I've done already and I say, well, why can't I progress farther forward? I've already done this much, and I can look at it on paper. It can be easy to get a little discouraged when you're not tracking, and it's kind of an abstract, vague cloud of a thought process of what you've done previously. But when you've got it all written down, you've got everything documented, you can go back and look and say, no, look what I've done so far. I can push onward. I think it is a great confidence booster, the tracking, and also gives you the intel. So if you're not making progress, you can look back and figure out, why that is. So let's just assume we all have great genetics and not worry about it anymore, and push onward to new territory and set some epic goals for this year. Be reasonable, of course, but you can do it. Drop a comment. What's your goal for 2025, whether lifting related or body weight related, strength related, anything. All right, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.